All right. Hey guys, and welcome to the Igloo. I haven't been on for a while because it's been tough. Ever since I put my video up of initially getting the Tesla. I know it's not everybody wanted to see about like, oh, this is how it's more of a reaction video for what it was, but this is not that. This is mainly me saying like 2020 was rough. It's 2021. I'm so glad that last year was over. It sucked. So like I made a video saying that I was not okay, and that was mainly because I had a lot on my plate with my dad. And ever since now, this is just going to be like a small recap. But um, the word that gets blocked everything because of whatever. We're just gonna call it Chuck E. Cheese disease because of how YouTube is. And this is mainly just gonna be like a one-off video so that people will know of in the future. I'll mainly put it like why I wasn't like making a video in like the description or something like that. But let's get to it. Ever since March 15th, my dad had problems, and that was mainly because he was trying to get into this attic of where I'm at right now because I'm taking care of my mom because she had surgery. I'll say it later on, but he fell down off the ladder. He broke 8 of his ribs and ruptured his spleen. My littlest brother Corey, now he's 18. Um, he had to take him to the hospital. So during that time, he was at the hospital closest to him, and that was the beginning of COVID. So there was an outbreak at that hospital for Chuck E. Cheese disease, and um, it was mainly just having more problems with Chuck E. Cheese disease. He was getting pneumonia. He was like not okay. He was in like a full like stage 3 room where everybody was wearing marshmallow suits and having full masks because nobody knew what was happening back in March. And um it had problems back then, and then he had a staph infection on top of it, and nobody told me until a little bit while ago before he got transferred to the second hospital because nobody told me that he had a staph infection from the first hospital. So then we found that out, and in the second hospital, they still kept treating him for the staph infection, and he was still having Chuck E. Cheese disease, and it was revolving around. But then he was asymptomatic for that, but he was still having like pneumonia and not being able to remember anything. And I posted that picture of him in the community. Um, and that was that. So because he was never really like of any wealth whatsoever, and he was pretty decently poor on how he was, he then had troubles getting into long-term care because again we're still in Chuck E. Cheese disease, and having these types of problems in 2020, and this all happened in 2020 by the way, so this was ever fluctuating, so I was still dealing with Medicaid and still having many problems with just trying to get a hold of somebody, because if I was trying to get guardianship in Chuck E. Cheese time, it would take about 2 to 3 months and about 5 grand of my own money, and I had to plan around that while I was working with my employer. But of course, my employer did not honestly care for everything about our health and well-being because he was trying to keep his like store open. And in our form of business, lawn care, um, it's mainly just fertilizing and spraying for weeds. And we were deemed a necessity in the state of New Jersey because people have allergies, and it could prevent some allergies for people. And also because we did pest control. So, I mean, obviously, you don't want to have mice and mouse like going around like screwing with people. But that was not a majority of the business. The majority of the business was lawn care and just dealing with that, just putting down fertilizer. But that also entailed into this, which is more so at the end. Once he got accepted into long term care, he was going to be quarantined for 14 days. And with that being said, um, on day two that he was in long term care, he was sent to a different hospital closer to where we are because he was transferred up to the only long term care place that was up here where we were. So during that third time, now we don't know when he got MRSA on top of that. If you know MRSA, it's a very bad bacterial infection. And he had that because of his open staph infection wound that he was still being treated for from the first two. Now, he passed away in December, early December, just before Christmas, and it was tough. But I couldn't make a video as soon as it happened because I'd probably be bawling my eyes out, and I couldn't let my family get into all these problems that were happening, and it was just it was just bad. So what was happening is that he got diagnosed with MRSA. They were treating him. He kept having problems over and over again, and then that hospital had an outbreak that then led to him having isolated. This is what the doctors told me. They said that they had isolated pockets of COVID still in his system. And when they said that to me, he had another stroke of ammonia on top of him not having this deliriousness. Now, with all that happening to him, was always a diabetic. So during this time, because of my theory, is that because of complications with COVID, and it thickening up the blood, that it caused him to be extremely irregular with his diabetes. So I would always get updates almost every 3 days of him, and it was either in the like 450 for his like count for his blood sugar, or all the way down to 50. So I had that. I wanted to say, how is he still having it? So then it was the second time that he was at that said hospital. So in total, he was at 4 hospitals since March 15th until December, early December, when he passed away. And he had all that. And then the second time he went to the hospital to where we were, he had 7 clots. He had one in his lung, and one is in his left lung, and then the other six were in his legs. They didn't tell me if it was 3 on 3. They just said that he had clots in his legs. And then so it just kept going and going. And I'm like, how is he handling this? Now, I made a promise to my youngest brother, Corey, because he needed to see him. And my brother Kyle and I, we saw him. It wasn't pretty because he had something that was more like dementia, and um he was off and on. So I don't know if it was the diabetes on how he had a high blood sugar, so he was very delirious, but then he could remember names, and it was bad. But I still made my promise to Corey to keep him on full code until he could see him. But then it got complicated around November because my mom was going to be having surgery because she had a special needs kid, because she was a special needs teacher, and this is still ongoing because she just had the surgery recently, and hence why I'm at my parents' place. And I blurred it back there, but it's a mess. It's a mess. And so my mom had to get 3 of her discs replaced in her back and her trachea cut so that they could operate to get the discs replaced because they were fused together, because that special needs kid hit her so hard that it fused the vertebrae together. And I had to worry about her, but during that time, my dog also died, and it was tough because my dad had complications because of COVID, but he didn't die because of COVID. He had all the complications because it was placed upon him in the environment and all that other stuff, but he didn't die of COVID. And with everything that was happening, the last final steps that I had occurring to him was um he on it was pretty much what happened was my employer had a thing that was happening, and this person needed to get tested for COVID, and he did not provide the paperwork that he got tested for COVID. And I'm being very careful because I'm going to need to take care of my mom because of surgery. So because I needed to take care of my mom and everything else, I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I got to make sure that I'm healthy and I'm COVID negative so that I can take care of my mom for when I need to with my brother's help, and us all working together, and also with my fiance working together with us so that we can take care of mom. So he he paid this guy under the table to still work in our line of work to make sure everything was like in his order because again he's the businessman. Well, he had that run of line, and I was very perturbed. I texted and called him, and I drove him right back, and he never worked a day again at my employer. But at 5 o'clock that same day, that I was still with that employee before I kicked him off because now I got to get a COVID test, and I have to figure out like exactly where and how I'm going to get the test done. And then at 5 o'clock, I start looking up things in my car. I'm trying to figure out exactly like where the closest place to test is. 5:05. Um, the hospital that he was at calls and says that his heart stopped and they needed to continue with chest compressions. So, um, yeah. So, and I had to help with that, and I say just do it another 15 minutes because I don't know because I mean it's going to break his ribs, and he's been through so much, and yeah, then he passed. I was not okay. I'm still not okay. I'm still not okay with this whole year between like Medicaid screwing me over, um, my employer that with all that happened, that it caused me to not see my brothers during my greatest need for them, and I'm never gonna get that back. And yeah, so I figured out a few different things. I had to help. I couldn't really like take time off mentally because I had to then take care of my mom because of her surgery, which was like right after the viewing and everything else. It was like a week after that. So I had to go straight from that. And then I had to fix up her place because nobody was really taking care of her place and making sure that the electrical was fine. I had to clean out the dryer like tube for just venting excess moisture. I don't know what it's called on the top of my head. But then I set up her mini split and just trying to get everything in order so that she can have air conditioning in the summer because her HVAC system went. So I'm trying to take care of that. And it was just the domino effect of things that has happened because of all this. And yeah, 2020 really sucked. And I mean, I'll honestly say F2020. Um, I'm still not okay, but I'm just so glad that it's 2021. All that is another chapter away, and I mean, I'm probably going to reboot this channel, and I'm gonna try and work on it so that I can be mentally ready to get a lot of the stuff done, or maybe some Conan stuff, and some more Tesla stuff because I really like the Tesla that I have. I got the 2020 Tesla, and so yeah, so that was my 2020. I was doing that while working, trying to do everything, having my headphones plugged in, working on the paperwork for my dad, and trying to handle all of this during 2020 and Chuck E. Cheese disease. So I never really had a break this whole time, and that's why I kind of stopped making those videos in that 6 months period because I just couldn't do it. Like I couldn't mentally do everything at once, and it was just so much to the point that I just could not handle it. And yeah, writing a script, putting about 4 to 5 hours into a video, then the video editing, and it became a daunting task that just had so many problems to it because I would devote this amount of time, but the only thing that came from 2020 is my finances. Like honestly, like I invested heavily, and I will tell you guys like right now, like I stop TikTok. The only thing that really saved me is just investing a lot of money into stop it into Tesla. So I knew that I had a lot of advice from uh, different YouTubers, looking up the articles every single day before going to work. Especially when I got my Tesla in the summertime, like it was needed to like see on how much was going to help and how I can prosper and how I can get things done. But like right now, I have like just under 31K because Tesla did so well, and my average buying price is like 238 because I got in extremely early before the stock split, and I knew that there was a massive cataclysm because they were actually improving their production. Now, do I believe on their current value? No, no. But I mean, that's another thing. It just sucked for a lot for family, friends, and I also had friends. I was in a. I'm not going to name names because I'm not that. So I also had two of my friends because of their relationship. It was a guy and a girl, and they didn't say everything for what was happening. Well, he was abusing her, and she was getting hit multiple times, and he would like make blatant threats to be like, yeah, I'm gonna stab myself, yeah, I'm gonna do all this, and I'm gonna jump off this building and stuff like that. And because I didn't know the full story, I couldn't really know because I didn't know that until after the fact of them breaking up and them moving away, because I was really concerned for her safety. I even called and texted her that one day to be like, you should not be there. And apparently she was with another boy at the time, so because she didn't want to move back into her parents, so she chose to have a um, another person while it was happening. So that was the thing, because that's the only way that she could get out of it, was to like move out into this person's like life, because she couldn't go back to her parents, so she made a decision. I had that happen, and now one of my other friends, probably on the day of this video, or the 3rd of January 2021, she's gonna be also like breaking up with her boyfriend of 4 years, because they just stopped as soon as they came up for Christmas. So most of my friendships, when it comes to like that I had as couple friendships, they kind of dispersed because of their jobs, of crazy situations, and all that other stuff. So like by my friendships, they were also demolished on all of this in 2020. I mean, I still have some friends in this kind of environment, but most of them that are still just friends, they still live pretty far. So I had also that on top of my family stuff, and now I have to teach my brother on how to be a man in all of this, and how to like feel and do things and cry and iron. He wants to have his stuff ironed. So I have to teach him for what I've learned in the military. And it's just, it was just so much. I mean, these last few months leading up to December, they were hard. So that's why I was not being on YouTube and not being active on social media. And I was trying to do my best to handle everything and to not be in debt and to try and figure out on how everything is, because there was just so much chaos. So every day I took every day like as a new experience, even though it might have sucked extremely bad one day because my dad had an episode or something like that, or I did really good in the stock market. And I was just like, "Yay, I get to do this." Um, it was a roller coaster, and there was more downs than highs in 2020, and yeah, I finally got to like getting better in different things, and then nobody could buy stuff. Like I couldn't even get like PS5 or Series X. It was just all over the place. I just wanted 2020 to be over, and I hope 2021 will be better for my family, my friend group, because I mean I don't really care more financially as long as I'm not in the streets. I've been in worse. I've been in the streets before. I've had to be out there for, it was not that long compared to other people, but it was like 4 to 5 months. Not during 2020, but when I was younger. So I I didn't like that at all. But I mean, it's all on how you become stronger and how you feel with things, and how you can deal with certain situations and how you can learn from it. And as long as you don't end up being homeless, I mean, you accomplished something, especially in 2020. So for everybody that's struggling out there, there's always another person that probably hasn't said anything. So you might want to talk to them. The best thing, like it's just like the soldiers that I had to deal with when I was serving, is that it's just talking to them. If you just talk a little bit and you just have a little bit of conversation with them, maybe it's just for 5 minutes, maybe it's just to sit down. Maybe you just see somebody in the mall just not looking happy at all, and you can just talk to them and be a little bit of a human being. Yes, you still have to do this whole 6 feet thing because I had to be an essential worker this whole time and not even get paid extra for it in any way, shape, or form, even though the employer did give me 3 raises, which I will be appreciative because instead of like getting a emergency relief thing, he gave me a few different raises, and I will be thankful for that, and I'll be thankful for and how he was in those type of situations. But he won't care for COVID or if you were sick or anything else like that because it's a family business. And max you ever had was 5 people, 5 people, 6 people taking care of the business, and you can't really be down one person with 6 people because it just turns out to be bad. Even though at the same time you might need to have that, at the end of the day, you don't know what was going to come around the corner the next day. And we're still going to be trying to get a house. I'm still going to try and do the robo taxis for Tesla, or like still doing like DoorDash or something of that caliber. But I'm in a very fortunate situation that because I learned on how to be financially literate in a lot of senses with like researching in companies and doing all that, I wasn't needing to be in fear as much as what other people have been in fear because I educated myself in that way. Now, not everybody is as fortunate, and I will say that, and that's why I'm saying just talk to people and just bring each other together and just love your neighbor. Have a good one.